I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
And don't forget, part of his base, and we saw this in North Carolina just yesterday, is critically opposed to this issue, and that's African Americans.
Ooh, Juan Williams. Last night on, I guess it was Brett Baer's show, Special Report on Fox. More in this Washington Post piece that I was reading from, Mark Fisher. Although marriage wasn't a factor for African Americans in Obama's first campaign, it could be this time, said William Cable, 49 years old, of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Obama's new stance, quote, threw me for a curve. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to support him now because I don't have the same belief. Cable is a black Democrat, knows he will vote against same-sex marriage in Maryland's referendum coming up, but can't see casting another ballot for Obama. Another quote from him. I'd love to be supportive to my president, said Cable, who works for the Montgomery County school system. Then he ends by saying, I have to be loyal to my God. Fascinating. How will this play out in the swing states? And the Politico has an interesting piece out today about how this, in the way they've analyzed the data, it doesn't necessarily help him in states like Ohio, in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in Virginia, critical states for Obama's reelection. Very interesting. And we thought, who else would be better to talk about Pennsylvania from the Democratic perspective than Ed Rendell? And, of course, he's a former governor of the great state of Pennsylvania, and he joins us now. I guess he manned up, huh?
Yeah, he sure did, and I think he deserves a lot of credit, particularly after the North Carolina referendum results came in. I think the president did the right thing, and sometimes I think that's as important as the political implications, in fact, frankly, more important. But, Laura, I want to tell you from my own experience, I think any worry about how he's going to do with African-American voters is silly. I ran for mayor in 1987 in the Democratic primary against the first African-American elected mayor in the city of Philadelphia, a decent man by the name of Wilson Good. But he made some horrible mistakes, including one that led to the burning of a city block. The police had literally dropped a bomb on a house, and it caused an entire city block to burn and several black children to be burned to death. And I just assumed that because of that and because the city wasn't being managed, that I would get 15 to 20% of the African-American vote. I was always popular with African-Americans in my previous runs. I got 3% of the vote because African-Americans were not going to turn their back on the first elected African-American mayor in Philadelphia's history. Barack Obama will not lose a percentage point of African-American votes.
The Reverend Nathaniel Thomas, he's the pastor at Forestville Redeemer Baptist Church in the D.C. area, and he leads one of these campaigns against Maryland's new marriage law.
Right.
He said the following. Obviously, he's a supporter of Obama's, but he said the following. Obama's statement on gay marriage, quote, took the wind out of me. His family image has been great for our community, and now he has allowed another agenda to cloud the great positive image he created of the black family. I mean, the Washington Post piece has African-American after African-American interviewed who are standing up and saying, whoa, this is, I'm loyal to the history he's created, being the first African-American. It's wonderful, but this is not what we stand for, and this is not what we believe.
Let me stop you. I want to make a bet now. I'm not Mitt Romney, so this will have to be lunch. I want to make a bet with you that in the African-American precincts of, take Washington, Philadelphia, Chicago, Barack Obama will get the same or a higher percentage of votes than he got the last time.
All right. Well, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Goes in and says the president was wrong. You can't support the president. The people in the church will nod their head. They'll nod their head and they'll say, yes, Reverend, yes, Reverend. And they'll go into the booth and they'll vote for Barack.
So you think they vote color over their faith?
They vote pride. And he's done in my judgment, he's done a good job handling the worst set of problems that any president in my lifetime has inherited, and African Americans know that, and they're not going to let him be turned out of office.
Wait, so you think African Americans, when they're asked if they're better off than they were 4 years ago, they say they are?
Some will and some won't, but even the ones who won't will say it's not President Obama's fault. So, I mean, that's a facile question, and I know it's been used in the past, but that doesn't.
No, it's a pretty important. Right, it's a pretty important measurement. I mean, look, you're an old political hand. You know how these races go, and incumbents traditionally run on the incumbent record, right? I mean, and I know there's some things that the president points to and says, "Look, I've done this. I did don't ask, don't tell. I've done the auto bailout. I've done these things."
When Ronald Reagan sought re-election, remember two things. Number one, he had raised taxes 11 times. Number two, that the unemployment rate was still very high. It was moving in the right direction, but it was still inordinately high, and he got elected with a significant majority. I mean, I think he carried almost every state. So it's not just where we are. It's what has the president done to address those problems. I think any reasonable person, yourself included, doesn't believe that the economy's collapse was Barack Obama's fault. Heck, his first the month before he took office, we lost almost 1 million jobs in a month.
Right. So what you're saying is that what has been accomplished economically, according to the president's own metric that he set of how he's going to bring down unemployment, the number of jobs that would be saved or created, that should not be considered as part of the calculus.
No, it should be, but it should be balanced by the fact that for the last 26 months, we've created, each month there's been a positive creation of private sector jobs. And that's the key factor. And we're headed in the right direction, clearly headed in the right direction. There's no question about it. And the president's policies have worked. But had the Congress last year adopted most of the tenets of the jobs bill, which Republicans had voted for in the past, I think we'd even be in a better shape today.
Well, the right direction, wrong direction poll numbers are disastrous, right? I mean,
again, the people
only
blame
31%
for that.
Right, but when you say we're headed in the right direction, just as a matter of tracking, whether it's Rasmussen or Gallup, the overwhelming majority of Americans think the country's going in the wrong direction. So, again, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in office, those are the numbers. And I think President Obama is actually doing pretty well considering where those numbers are. I think the fact that he's winning ahead in some of those polls is amazing.
I think people are smarter than we give them credit for, our politicians and analysts. They understand the problems that Barack Obama is dealing with, almost all of which were not of his own making. But look, you and I can talk about this forever, and we're two bright people. It's going to be decided in less than 6 months.
What do you think is going to happen, Governor, in the state of Pennsylvania? And look, I don't think there are necessarily single issue voters out there that are going to dominate this election, except on the issue of the economy. I don't think the gay marriage issue is going to dominate. I don't think women issues are going to dominate. I think it's jobs, the economy, how we're going to grow or not grow, and people's vision for how to do that. That's what I think is going to ultimately dominate here. So given that, where's Pennsylvania?
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. On gay marriage, for example, the only single-issue voters are some members of the LGBT community, and the people who are going to vote against the president on gay marriage were never voting for him on anything else. So I think it's going to be the economy. In Pennsylvania, the president will not win by the 11 points that he won by in 2008. It's going to be close, I'd say within 3 points, but I think the president will still win.
He's up in the recent Quinnipiac poll by 8 points.
But you and I both know polls 6 months out don't mean squat.
No. Well, and then the other interesting thing, in Pennsylvania has a lot of Catholic voters. The gay marriage issue, I guess in Pennsylvania, March public policy showed that this only has a 38% approval for gay marriage, 50% disapproval, which is not quite tracking with the national polls that show it's more evenly divided.
But Laura, let me give you another example from my own personal career. In my first term as mayor, I authorized domestic partnership benefits for city employees who were gay, and I got 44,000 pre-printed postcards that were handed out in church telling me that I should withdraw my executive order. About a year later, I ran for re-election as mayor, and I got 81% of the vote.
Well, what year was that again?
That was 1995.
Wow. Well, Mitt Romney has said he's for domestic partnership benefits. But I have a question for you.
By the way, I want to say something good about Governor Romney. I thought his response to what the president said yesterday was right on. He said we should be talking about things that are more important to the fundamental future of the country. And he's absolutely right, and I hope that Mitt keeps to that during the campaign, because then I think the campaign can be useful for the American people.
And Governor Rendell, you and I have talked about these issues respectfully and substantively for years now. And the one thing that I'm finding among friends and people who are some Democrats, some Republicans, is a concern that this conversation about the marriage question becomes one of demonization, that
right.
People who disagree with the president on this will be demonized as, quote, haters or, quote, anti-gay. And I find that to be very sad, and I find that to be very antithetical to the idea of a robust and respectful conversation about important issues like
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely, and I agree with you, and that's why I thought it was so heartening to hear what Governor Romney's response was.
You don't believe that people who disagree on this issue are haters?
No, there are people who have fundamental religious beliefs that they care very much about, and I would never demean or denigrate any of those beliefs. People come by that honestly, and people can say, look, I want gays to have all of the benefits and all the rights that if they're in a committed relationship that everybody else does. I just believe marriage is sacred, and that's a good argument. I don't think it's the winning argument, but it's a very good argument, and we should respect it.
Do you think the Catholic Church is going to be at some point down the road kind of forced into like a gay couple wants to get married in the Catholic Church? Will they have to just say, okay, we're going to have to open up our doors? Do you think that's where it's going to go?
Lord, certainly not in my lifetime, and you're a lot younger than I am, and not in your lifetime either.
Okay, well, I'm getting these questions into our email account. Is this where it's going?
Not a chance.
What do you think when you look at this vice presidential pick for the Republicans? And we can get into Biden in a moment, but for the Republicans, which person who's been named puts the most fear into the hearts of Democrats, do you think?
Well, I don't think it's fear, because I don't think people vote for vice president. I think your vice presidential pick can only do you harm. If it's a good pick, it's a neutral. And again, I've got to give Governor Romney some credit, because he is saying the right criteria. His criteria, and he has said this over and over again, is he's only going to pick someone who's got the experience so he or she could be ready to be president tomorrow if need be. And I think that means someone like Senator Portman, Governor Pawlenty, someone that the media may say, oh, they're white bread, or they're dull. It's not a question of being exciting. But by your vice presidential pick, you're telling the nation something about you. And if he picks someone like a Portman or a Pawlenty, he's sending out the right message.
What about a Paul Ryan?
I think Paul Ryan is a very competent guy, but I think some of his ideas are way out of the mainstream of the American people, and Medicare is one of them, including the Tea Party. I think Paul Ryan would be a disastrous choice. Again, not because of any individual characteristics. I admire him greatly, but I think some of his views are so out of line with what Americans are thinking that he would be too much of a risky choice.
Like which views?
Well, essentially turning Medicare into a voucher program. I mean,
but you agree that if we don't do something about Medicare, Social Security, I mean, this is going to be decided for us, right? I mean, we're not going to even have a choice about how these things are cut. They're going to just be cut.
Absolutely, and we should make cuts and reductions in benefits, but not turn it into a voucher program. And by the way, the Tea Party slogan is "Keep your hands off my Medicare."
Well, I didn't keep your hands off my Medicare. Is that the Tea Party slogan? He's pretty popular among the Tea Party types, though. I mean, I think he's considered a hero to them.
When they realize what the plan is, he wouldn't be so popular. But look, people in the country want Medicare. Of course, that doesn't mean we can't reform it. We can't reduce some of the entitlements and the benefits, but we can't dismantle Medicare.
Right, but Obamacare took $500 million out of Medicare. I mean,
absolutely. And by the way, who ripped him for it, Laura? The Republicans.
Well, I think the question of reform is something that I hope Democrats and Republicans can have an honest conversation about in the future. Governor, it's great.
I agree with that. And you and me and everyone on both sides of the issue, after this election, no matter who's elected, we've got about 4 or 5 months to do the nation's business. And that means some form of Simpson Bowles. It means an energy plan. It means an infrastructure plan. It means education. So let's get it done.
Yeah, well, you have to get to that Clooney fundraiser, so I don't want to hold you up.
I wasn't invited.
Yeah, you're on the red carpet tonight.
I
Come
wasn't
on.
Invited. Nope.
Rendell's going to be there with
there.
Streisand. Oh, come on. They have no star power there tonight if you're not going to be there. Hey, Governor,
Laura.
thanks so much for
Bye-bye.
joining us. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show, 800-876-4123. Don't go away.
The Laura Ingraham Show.